Hey everybody, it's Terry with the dronecav, coming to you from quarantine week 3,840 or something. It just seems like it's been forever, but I hope everybody's doing well, being safe and all that stuff. So anyway, kind of stuck inside today. It's a really windy day outside, not a good day to be flying a drone. So this is something that I've been wanting to show you for a while. What I call the undrone, or when you need a drone but you can't fly. So there's some really cool stuff out there, some cool accessories and some other cameras. So today I've got this really cool thing to show you. I love this guy. I take it almost everywhere with me. It's something, if you have one, you are just crazy about it already, I'm sure. If not, I'm going to show you a few things that might change that to really get you excited about it. Out of the way. This is a product from DJI, and as you may remember, DJI makes a lot of popular drones. They make the Phantoms, they make the Mavics, and they're a pretty big company, and they do go in different directions from just drones. They do have some robotics and some other handheld gimbals, and so they have some cool things. This little guy is called an Osmo Pocket. Now, DJI makes what's called an Osmo, which is a handheld gimbal that your phone fits in. So you can pop your phone into an Osmo and use it to have a stabilized camera with it. The cool thing about the Osmo Pocket, and why do I call it a drone that's not a drone, is because it's basically a drone without propellers. It is, as you can see, it's really tiny, small, fits right in your pocket. But the gimbal here, this is a 3-axis gimbal. Really nice camera, and we're going to take a look at the settings here in a second. But it is essentially the same camera and the same gimbal you're going to find on a DJI Mavic Air. So it shoots in 4K, it shoots really good quality, it's extremely stable, it's very versatile, it has a bunch of programmed modes in the software, so it does a really cool job. And again, in the case, it's this tiny. You can take it anywhere. I have a little bag, and you know, if you've watched some of my stuff, you know I'm a big case and bag and carry and keep all your stuff organized type. So I have like a little tiny bag that I carry, you know, in days when we can go out amongst the public and to attractions and things. It's really nice just to carry it along. I want to show you a few cool features about the hardware, and then we're going to jump in and take a look at the software. You can probably see this little guy right here, this little tab. This is a connector that slides out, it pops out, and not sure, and again, I'm using my webcam today, so it's not the best quality in the world, but I hope you can see that. That is a lightning adapter for an Apple product like an iPhone. And you notice how I slipped it out. Well, there's some connectors right here in this bed. What you do, you turn that thing around and you pop it right in. And you see how that lightning connector pops out from the side. Well, what do you do with that? You can snap it. I have a case on my phone. You can snap it right onto your phone. And that's not a live picture, that's a reflection from my screen. But you can snap it right onto the phone and use your phone for your controller screen. So you can set up your shots better. You can get a bigger image, of course, and you can access some features. Now, you've only got 2 buttons here on the front. This one here, just the black button, I'll press and hold it for a second, and it powers up. Now, you also have a screen here which has a variety of controls that you can use. Again, it's a little tiny screen. You can probably tell it's maybe an inch, if that. But by swiping up or down, and I know the camera's probably not going to focus too well on that, it will let you get into the settings. You can pick photo mode, video mode, different types of modes. You can change your camera settings and all that kind of stuff there. So if you have really good eyesight, you want to use that little thing, it's more portable, it's easier to handle than popping your phone in it, but the phone clips in kind of nice, and it's really not that bad. There's some accessories that also will, it's kind of a clip thing that will clip your phone and the Osmo Pocket together to make it more of a single unit too, so if you're going to be moving around. Now, I'm going to just get rid of this guy for a second. These, of course, use a micro SD card. You have a slot right here, And I preach about these things all the time. You can never have too many SD cards. Just as a simple thing, it pops right in, pops right out. This also has a couple mics. You have a USB-C connector on the bottom for connecting certain accessories, and you also have a mic down there too. Now, that's pretty cool as it is. You can walk around with it. Like if you're going through a theme park, or if you need to get a shot, you need to get a tight shot. If you're doing whatever, you want to get a good shot, it's really good for that. And a use case that I would say that this is useful for me would be flying a drone, especially indoors or in a really tight area. You want to be safe, so you always want to use your prop guards for that, to keep the props from banging into anything. But there's even situations where it's getting tighter. Like what if you wanted to fly through the rails of like a banister or a staircase, where you have to actually fly through something with really tight tolerance. Now, if you're really good and you practice a lot, you could do that, and it's going to be tricky for anybody, but it is possible. But you can take a guy like this, and it will fly manually right through that. So you can combine that footage very easily in post. So it kind of gives you that versatility. So again, it's a drone without props. It's a drone that you manually move around. Now again, it's a 3-axis gimbal. One thing to keep in mind, like with any handheld gimbal, when you're walking, there's still that tendency to get that bounce, that Z-axis. They do have some accessories out now. Again, I don't have one, so I can't show it to you, but it's basically a handle that kind of clips on, that has a spring mechanism in it that helps compensate for that. So if you are walking, it helps take that extra bounce out of the stability. But if you may be familiar with what's called the ninja walk. If you have that down, you're going to be pretty good with this if you do need to take a few steps or do a little motion. So again, this is good for fill-in shots, tight little things like that. I'm not saying it's going to replace a drone, but hey, it's pretty darn good. So what could you do to make this better or get more utility out of it? This is the second best thing I've ever found as far as an accessory goes. This is like a smart stick. Now, if you look around online and you have an Osmo Pocket, you'll find a million different sticks to mount it on, and it's got a long cable and blah, blah, blah. That's basically it. They're basically just a big selfie stick. Yeah, that can be okay. I mean, if you're going to use it as a jib or whatever, but you don't have any controls. This gives you quite a bit of control over the Osmo. Now, this thing that folds up and down holds your smartphone, so you have the access to the screen there. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. This does extend out, I think it's 30 inches. So it gives you a pretty nice reach. But we're not going to fit all that on. It's really tight too, so it has a nice hold. Now, I'm going to pop this little clip, trying to get you the best angle here to see this. And it opens up. Now remember where I left the clip off here? Because it slides into a groove here. You fold it back over, snap it together, and boom, there you go. And it's not going anywhere. It's locked in there, it's clamped on, and the connector in there from that lightning tab that we took out is now talking to these controls. So what I can do here, same button layout, even though there's a couple more buttons. Press and hold this button. Check it out. Now we've got control here. So now, if we did have this thing extended all the way out, obviously it's hard enough to see the screen as it is when it's up close. So we need to have a way to expand on that. DJI makes, and again, I'm not trying to sales pitch you on all these accessories. I'm just telling you this is what you're going to want when you get out there and you're using this thing. This is a Wi-Fi adapter. For whatever reason, they don't have Wi-Fi built in. Maybe the tech isn't there yet, or it uses too much battery consumption if you're not really needing it. So they don't want to add that extra radio to kill your battery runtime. But this is it's not all that expensive. I think they're about 60 bucks or so, $60, $69, something like that. And notice it has the USB-C connector. Boom. It's that hard, that difficult to install it. So now I've got this guy broadcasting a Wi-Fi signal. So I can use a device in my holder to connect to that. But before we do that, go over a couple other things. This button with the red dot, this is our record, start, or stop, or snap a photo, whatever. But this is the really cool thing here. This is a joystick, and if you can see the camera move up or down or left, right. So you have control from here. And again, that's nice if you're using the Osmo in like a reaching situation where you have it out, or you're again flying close to something really tight, or flying through some branches really tight. Again, that stair rail thing, anything where you need to go through like through an open window or a crack in an open window. This is really tight. Now, there's a lot of flight modes, and we just don't have time to get into all of them today, or camera modes, I'm sorry, to get into all of them today. But it has some cool features. Like in one of the modes, you can set the camera, when you tip it at a certain degree, it has an accelerometer, so it knows its orientation, and the camera will flip up in what's called flashlight mode. So it'll shoot straight ahead. And again, you can see how that would be useful to use in certain situations like that. So you don't always have to think about holding the device straight up and down or at whatever angle. You can use it just about anything. I like to use this like from a ground up perspective to get sort of an upshot coming up, and then I'll pick that up with a drone and get higher elevation from that. So you can, again, it's a matter of your creativity and how you want to set your shot up. So take the phone, pop the phone in the holder, and we are going to one thing to be aware of, I just did it. When you pop your phone in, I have an iPhone XR. Be careful of your buttons, because this has a really tight spring on it. Just watch your buttons and make sure you don't always clip it down on one of the ringer button, volume buttons or whatever. I always do it. But anyway. Okay, so there's an app, a companion app that works with this. It's the DJI Mimo app. So I'm going to open that. Get a little blue connect button up here. And again, I know this isn't the best quality, so you just have to kind of follow along with me. Take my word for it. It's going to go through a connecting process. It asks me if I want to join the network that the Osmo is broadcasting. I'll tell it yes. And it takes a minute or so to connect. And there we go. So let's have a little fun with it here. What's next? What could it be? On the bottom of the holder, it has a 1/4-20 threaded socket. So if you have a little tripod, this is just getting better, right? Boom. Now you've got a nice little tripod set up that you can just do about anything with. All right, so let's just take a look around here at a couple things. Now, this over toward the right, you see the big white button. I'm in photo mode. We can switch to video mode. Up above that, we have pano. Slow motion, it'll shoot in slow-mo. Some cool things are time lapse. You can do some really creative things with time lapse, where you can set your interval and your duration, and of course hyperlapse. So it's got some neat things built in there that will give you some cool options that will save you time in post if you need to get a cool effect. Again, I like to use the time lapse to get things like sky with the clouds moving and things like that during a sunset or whatever. You can get some really neat stuff that way. But just to the left of those modes, we have a few things. The top is the camera adjustment. That's which setting we're going to use there. But just below it, you see kind of like 4 arrows that point in together. that recenters the camera. That's kind of an important thing because you are going to be moving this camera around a good bit, and you a lot of times need to recenter that just to get a fresh start. So now over to the left, we're not going to tap that home button. That just takes us back to our main menu. But just below it, there's a little camera icon. And let's tap that. And tap the little man running. It has two follow modes, a fast follow and a slow follow. And the fast follow is if you have it following the motion of the camera or an object, the camera will move pretty quickly and it'll stop fairly quickly. The slow follow is a little softer. The camera comes to rest a little softer. It's not quite as abrupt, so that's pretty cool. But just to the right of that, we've got the tilt lock. Now that will keep your horizon straight, so you can move the camera however. It's going to keep that horizon and the tilt consistent. And let's tap on the next mode there. FPV mode. That is pretty much self-explanatory. The camera's going to go however you move it, however you take it. It's going to be just like you have on FPV goggles. It's going to be very consistent with how you move the camera. But I'm a big fan of follow. Follow will lock on an object, and we've talked about that some with drones. It works pretty much the same way. You can lock onto something and it will stay right on it. And that's cool, like if you're locked on a face, if you want to stay locked onto somebody, or if you're using it for tracking a subject or something like that. So let's just go back to tilt lock. We're going to jump down to the next one. Now, we have lots of camera settings here. I'm in video. You have manual settings there, auto settings. It's kind of not super bright in this room, so it's not getting the best image there, but hey, that's what we're working with today. Now here's where it's cool. In video, you can shoot basically in 3 resolutions, 1080, and which is fine. If you're going to use it for YouTube or something online, it doesn't need top quality. 1080 is great. But look at all the frame rates you have there. So you can go from 24 to 60. 2.7, a bit better. Again, if you want to keep that file size small, have good resolution, there you go. But then we can get crazy. We can get crazy and go 4K all the way up to 60 frames per second in 4K. Pretty darn good. So you can get some really, really, really good quality out of this. Just going down to the bottom there. We have some more settings here. And again, we're in video mode, so I'm just kind of going through the video stuff quickly. You can adjust your format. White balance, as always, I recommend picking a white balance and sticking with it rather than auto, because the auto is going to want to try to self-adjust, and it's if you move around and you get different contrasts and all, it's going to jump around there. So the last time I used it was on sunny, so we'll leave it there. Not too worried about some of these. Wind noise reduction is kind of good for those mics, and it does a pretty darn good job. If I did want to come down to histogram, always keep your histogram on. Love your histogram. Focus mode. 2 focus modes here. If I can tap it and get it to come up. AFC and AFS. Okay, the difference. Autofocus continuous, autofocus single. Okay, well, what's the difference? Well, the autofocus continuous, the camera is going to try and keep everything in focus. Background, foreground, midground. It's going to try and work and keep that in focus. So you know what happens. Some things, you'll get a little blur here or there, or you'll see the camera working. If you don't want that, you'll go to AFS, autofocus single. So whatever you tap on the screen will determine what the camera is going to focus on. So that lets you have a little more control over that focus. You don't see as much shifting in the focus, and it gives you some better control there. We can recalibrate the gimbal if it starts acting wacky. Here is a utility. And a couple things here as far as formatting your card. So of course you always want to start with a fresh card, and any device management settings or anything there. So this camera mode I mentioned at the top right corner earlier on, this is kind of handy. What it'll do is rotate that camera around to look at you basically. And actually, let's do something here. Realize why it was so dark. So now you see me on the camera. I'm on this camera, that camera. So that is good if you're going to do a vlog or something like that. And hey, surprise, surprise, I record almost all the dronecav videos with this guy, with the Osmo Pocket. So it works really, really well for that. And you see the image quality that comes out of it. And we'll turn that back around. So you can see sort of almost to the center of the screen a little button with up-down arrows around it. That lets you manually control that camera if you want to touch the screen. I'll focus on my buddy here. Or using the joystick control and the stick, you can move that around as well. Now that thing moves a little fast, so it takes a little practice getting used to being a little more subtle. So I found using the screen control is a bit slower if you like something like a smoother motion with it. But anyway, that's kind of it. That's sort of a quick introduction to the Osmo Pocket. If you don't have one and you're looking for a fairly inexpensive camera that shoots 4K 60, has decent audio. Unfortunately, I believe, okay, I take that back. They do have an adapter now that you can get to pop into that USB-C port to plug a mic into. So if you want to use a better mic than what's built in, you can do that as well. The downside is if you're using the Wi-Fi module, you can't plug it into the port on the Wi-Fi. So that they unfortunately only have one port, so you're going to use it for one or the other. So that's a decision you have to make. You have to think through your workflow. But it's a really cool tool. The camera I think is about $349. The controller stick is again I think $69 or so, $70. The Wi-Fi module is about the same. So for about $500, I'm not doing the exact math, it's not a bad portable setup to take around. If you have you can find a little portable mini tripod on Amazon for $10, and you've got a nice kit to go to grab images and supplement your drone images. Again, you can tie those in so many different ways. It just expands your creativity. It doesn't cost you a ton of money. Small and portable. Hey, I love it. I love mine. I use it all the time. So it's sort of my ground-based drone. And hey, it's a drone that's not a drone, but hey, you can use it like a drone. So anyway, I hope you got some good information out of that. As always, feel welcome to give me a shout. My name is Terry, and my email is terry@blackdogdroneops.com. I'm also a mentor here on the Indie Brigade. Book a session. We'll talk about the Osmo. We'll talk about drones. And we've got the Evo, we've got the Mavics, we've got new models coming out. We've got so much stuff going on in the world of drones. And right now, surprisingly, with the COVID-19 crisis, drones are being used in some amazing ways as far as tools for communications and delivery. And we're just seeing all this stuff move even faster forward as a result of what we're dealing with right now. So we're going to see some pretty cool things coming from drones in the next coming months and year. So anyway, stay tuned. Feel welcome to give me a shout if you have any questions. I'm always happy to talk. Take care and be safe.